creating a patient care report. Below my current crew button, I have another button that says new. The rest of the options up here are currently grayed out because I have no other PCRs with which to do anything with. So my only option right now is to create a new patient care report. So I click on that, we'll open up a new one. This program is designed to work in a specific fashion. There's tabs across the top, and there's also little buttons down the side here. Essentially what the program is designed to do is kind of take you to the path of going top to bottom in a particular tab, and then move you to the next tab, and then work top to bottom there, all the way through. You'll notice all my tabs and buttons are currently gray. Once I access a different tab, the one that I've been to turns to an orange. So for instance, I click on mileages and my dispatch turns to an orange. When I click back to dispatch, my mileages turns orange. Doesn't mean that I've put any information in there, and it also doesn't mean that I've completed that particular tab. It just means that I've accessed it. So it kind of gives you an idea of where you have and haven't been in regards to the report. The first tab is titled Trip, and the first button below that is Dispatch. That's where we'll start a report. You'll notice we defaulted many of the different settings in this particular category and really all throughout the report because it's the most common thing we're going to see. Most of our calls are going to come via E911. Most of our response modes, as you'll see here, are going to be lights and sirens. So common things or things that are absolutes, we made defaulted to certain values. Doesn't mean you can't change it. You notice on the right hand side of the screen here I have phone call and also walk-in from which to choose. So nothing's absolute. We can change those as we see fit. Red items are those that are required to be completed. The strange thing about this I will tell you is that it may seem strange at least that not everything that needs to be completed will be red. And reason being is there are multiple rules that are attached to certain items that will trigger once you click something else. So if I input a trauma patient, it may now require certain other fields to be required, but it may not necessarily make them red at that point. So when we do our complete call rules and when we go to complete our PCR, it will definitely tell us which ones we need to complete. So just because it's not red, don't be concerned that you're not filling in all the right items. So a blue line indicates where we currently are on our report. If I click tab, it brings me to my next line. We will input the incident number. Tab to the next item as well. Our dispatch complaint is what we were dispatched for. This list here on the right hand side is one that is generated by NEMSIS database, so it's a national requirements, a national list that they provide us from which to choose from. So I know it's not the most inclusive list at times, and you probably recognize a lot of these items from other reporting software because they are essentially a national database we go off of. So we can pick the diabetic problems. Automatically moves me to the next one. It defaults to lights and sirens, so I can hit tab. If you change the response priority, you can note it here. We'll select medical for this type of call. Defaults to ALS. If you had a response delay, so some reason you couldn't get to the call within X amount of time, please indicate here. Currently it is set to none. There's also a rule set to where if there's a response delay of X amount, it actually will require you to put in a type of response delay reason. So right now we'll leave it as none. Our primary rule is transport. Dispatch delay is different than response delay in that it's the reason why they couldn't get us out the door in time. So X amount of seconds, X amount of minutes, whatever it might be. We're not always going to know what that is, so we have it defaulted to none for that purpose. Additionally, EMD performed, we're not necessarily going to know if they gave pre-arrival instructions to the individual on the phone, so again, that is defaulted to not known. Our pickup facility. This might seem like a strange list on the right side, but where it pulls from is the same one for our destination facility or our hospital facility. What this list is intended to do is allows us to create a list of places that are frequently traveled. So certain nursing homes, jails, high schools, other facilities, things of that nature we might go to quite frequently. If it's just a routine call, you can click scene of accident or scene of emergency. Department is blank. You'll notice when I tab over to address 1, I have the option of copying over an address. Right now I click on it, there's nothing to copy over. Reason being, there's been nothing that's been input into the program to copy over. Once I put something in, such as this facility address, it will allow me to copy it over to the patient tab if it would be the residence. So that way you don't have to input it twice. So when we get to our patient tab later on, you will notice the same copy address button in that particular category. Our pickup address. This pickup address too would be your apartment number if there was one. Zip code. And you notice when I put in the zip code, it will auto-populate my state, city, and also county. Phone number. There's no cell phone required, but if there is one, you may choose to put it in. The mileages aspect of the tab I'm not going to cover. If this is something you use in your department, please talk with your EMS coordinator and you can get you educated on how you will be using this. The scene tab simply gives us our patient information, or our scene information, if you will. Our patient found is automatically defaulted to at scene. This list here, again, is a NEMSIS required list they provided for us from which to choose from for data reporting purposes. Defaulted to at scene. If you choose to put something different to be more specific, you may do so. Location type, again, another NEMSIS requirement. You've probably seen this similar list appearing in other software reporting programs. So we will click Home Residence. Delay at scene is automatically defaulted to none. Again, if the time calculation comes out to where there's a certain amount of time on scene beyond normal, it will ask you to input a delay at scene reason. This assisted by tab allows us to pick other people on scene who are helping us out. If you had other medical personnel, fire, bystander, police, anything you might want to select. It does have the ability to select multiple, and if I want to deselect, I simply click it again. Number of patients defaults to 1, mass casualty defaults to no, mutual aid also to none. If you gave or received, please indicate that. Outcome of prior aid defaulted to not applicable. And then suspected intentional or unintentional disaster, it's also defaulted there to not applicable. The additional crew on scene we're not going to utilize for the time being. We'll talk more about where you add your crew here in a second. There's a couple different ways you can go about beginning your report. This is one of them where you kind of start the way the program is intended, the top left, and work your way down to the different tabs and kind of follow the format. Sometimes what people will do when they first access and they come to the dispatch trip screen here, when they first open up a new patient care report, they'll go all the way to the end and click on review. When they click on review, it gives them the ability to add other crew members. So if you had your truck company on scene, your engine company on scene, you can add them in here. Signatures aren't required, so if you're sitting at the hospital doing a report, don't necessarily worry about getting a signature. You can simply hit cancel for this. We are only concerned with the people who are reporting, the medic unit, with a signature. If you're operating on a truck company that day, obviously you're going to want to input the signature for your particular tablet. But if you're the people who are reporting and there's additional crew members on scene, don't worry about obtaining their signatures. Pick their role, and again you can put them as firefighter, paramedic, or secondary or third patient caregiver. Does not matter at this point. The only thing that matters is that the medic, the primary caregiver or the charge medic is the one on the ambulance, and that you also have a driver on the ambulance. The next thing that sometimes people will do after inputting their additional crew on scene is they'll click on the Outcomes tab up top. Left hand side, they'll go to Times, and they'll put their times in. What this allows them to do is as they go throughout the report, adding patient assessments, vital signs, and interventions, those times are already put in and allows them parameters from which to work in. So it's kind of a little convenience factor. So they'll go to Review, they'll put in their crew, they'll go to Outcome, put in their times, and they'll start back at the beginning of trip and work their way through the report. That's it for the trip tab. The next video we'll move on to the patient tab.